So here we are, World Labyrinth Day. I hope you can see that. Walk as one at one or one-ish, we're kind of saying, and because we want to certainly talk about not only peace in our world, but connection. The more connected we are, hopefully, the more peace that brings. So I'd like to begin with just a couple quotes because we need to be connected in so many ways. We need to be connected, as Chief Seattle says, to the web of life. All things are connected like the blood that unites us. We do not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. And that is such a crucial concept. And not only that, it's a knowing that we're beginning to discover one by one, perhaps, or perhaps even more than one by one in our communities. I love this quote. I love those connections that make us, the big old world, feel like a little village. So we can be connected, of course, to our ecological world, to nature. It's so important, but we also need to be connected to our communities. We need to be connected in that just big old world. And connection helps it feel like a little village. And then also, I love this quote. I love Albert Schweitzer's writings all my life. And this one quote jumped out at me. Sometimes our light goes out, but is blown again into instant flame by an encounter with another human being. And so we're not only connected to the nature, we're connected in our communities, and we need to connect with one another because our light does go out. Our light indeed does go out, and we need to make sure that we are able to share with one another and light each other's lights when's needed. So as we begin to think about and approach our labyrinth walk, I'd like to underscore the importance of what the labyrinth design can do for us. So in light of thinking about the labyrinth, you know, those of us who use the Chart Labyrinth a lot, like myself, there's 28 180-degree turns. And that's quite a bit. And you can think about it as the cycles of the moon, 28 days between each cycle, and there's 13 moons. We've come later to kind of say 12 moons. And then there's that extra blue moon that we sort of tucked in there in our understanding. But I love the idea that in the labyrinth, there's turns. And if we think about this time that we're in, and here we're in such a unique time, we're coming out of COVID, hopefully. I know Canada's still struggling. I'm not sure where we are in the UK. I know Australia, you're breathing pretty easy down there. I'm glad for that. I know, as we know from our news, that people in India are suffering deeply. And the world is at a time of great turning. The world is at a time of great turning. So I wanted to remind us of that by Christina Fry's poem called The Great Turning. And so I want to read that as we begin to move toward our labyrinth walk. You've asked me to tell you of the great turning, of how we save the world from disaster. The answer is both simple and complex. We turned. For hundreds of years, we had turned away as life on Earth grew more precarious. We turned away from the homeless men on the streets, the stench from the river, the children orphaned in Iraq, the mothers dying of AIDS in Africa. We turned away because that was what we had been taught, to turn away from our pain, from the hurt in another's eyes, from the drunken father and the friend betrayed. Always, we were told, in actions louder than words, to turn away, turn away. So we became a lonely people caught up in a world, moving too quickly, too mindlessly toward its own demise. Until it seemed as if there was no safe place to turn, no place, inside or out, that did not remind us of our fear or terror, despair and loss, anger and grief. Yet on one of those days, someone did turn, turned to face the pain, turned to face the stranger, turned to look at the smoldering world and the hatred seething in too many eyes, turned to face himself, herself, their self. And then another turned, and another, and another. And as they wept, they took each other's hands until the whole world of people were turning, young and old, gay and straight, people of all colors, all nations, all religions, turning not only to the pain and the hurt, but to beauty, gratitude, and love, turning to one another with forgiveness and a longing for peace in their hearts. And I thought this poem by Christina Fry was really very appropriate as we think about the turns in the labyrinth, and we think about as we're beginning to walk our labyrinths. And I'm assuming that each of us has a handheld labyrinth of some form there. And if not, a picture of a labyrinth that you can even trace. I remember my first awareness of becoming aware of the power of the design itself without walking it was I was communicating with a prisoner, an inmate in a prison up in Vacaville, California. And on our early letterhead, we had the picture of the Chart Labyrinth. And his practice was to take a toothpick, which they were allowed to have in the prison, and trace it with the toothpick. And that he was having very important opening and grounding and experiences along with insights and the ability to pray. So our handheld labyrinths are certainly bigger than a small little quarter-sized medallion, but it works on any level, as long as we're able to quiet our minds and open our hearts. So take a moment to reflect on your connections. World Labyrinth Day, we have Ellen with us today who's been organizing this. Take a moment. Where do you need to bring peace to your relationships? Where do you need to express love that you have kind of not realized you needed to? Where do you need to allow yourself to be vulnerable and open and say some truth, speak some truth? It's especially poignant this year because now some of us are coming out of COVID. We're feeling, at least in California, some of the relief of being vaccinated, some of the relief of being able to step forward to greet one another. Judith Tripp and Dawn and I had lunch together yesterday, and we didn't have to wear masks, and we could hug each other. And it was a wonderful, wonderful feeling. So that sense of connection. It's been unfortunate that we've talked about social distancing. It's really not social distancing, it's physical distancing that we've had to do and are doing in many places for very important reasons. And we're still doing that here too, if it's not in our enlarged bubble. But it's physical distancing, and the social distancing and it's a social connection has gone on. And who do you long to connect to? Who do you long to speak your truth to? Who do you long to say prayers for? Who do you long to realize your gratitude for another human being in your life, for your communities, and for the earth? So I'm going to approach the meditation, but I want to point out that Lars is walking the labyrinth at Grace Cathedral. Grace Cathedral is still closed. And Lars, yes, thank you. This is the outdoor labyrinth there. The labyrinth itself has been open, except that there has been fencing around it because the boys' school, which has convened, used it to sit 6 feet apart from each other and have lunch. And so the fence is down now, but Grace Cathedral remains closed. It's opening for the first time this Sunday. And interestingly, not during hours of worship, but at 2 o'clock in the afternoon for what they're calling a simple communion, meaning something like we might do at a retreat center, something light and easier than in the cathedral on Sunday mornings. So Lars is going to read each of our names from the participant list as he walks. So he is walking symbolically for us. And so your name will be read silently as he's walking. So thank you, Lars, for doing that. I appreciate that. You want to come on in here for a moment?
Sure.
There's
Yes.
Lars. There you are.
Happy to be here for everyone and connecting to you all in this space, online and in person.
Great. Thanks, Lars. Thanks for walking the labyrinth for us symbolically.
Sure, it's my pleasure and privilege.
Great. All right. So join us as we begin here. What I would like to do as we begin our walk is just allow ourselves to begin to lay your hands on your labyrinth. You know, I really love when we hold up our labyrinths first. Let's hold up our labyrinths and show one another. And feel free to go through the pages to see each other's labyrinths, all different designs. I see a classical labyrinth. I see a double-handed labyrinth. Adriana from Ecuador, thank you for joining us. That's a long way. That's great. Chuck, I see your green labyrinth here for sure. We're moving through, and feel free to move through the pages. Take a moment as we go. Quite amazing to see all the different variety. It's just really wonderful. But take a moment just to really look at this design, your design that you have in front of you, or the design that at Grace Cathedral. And allow yourself to begin to connect with your breath. Breath unites us all. And as we have found because of COVID, that it unites us and we're all in this together. And sometimes that's good news and sometimes that's bad news. But everything alive on this planet, human and non-human, breathes. So allow yourself to connect with your breath. Move your hand. I like to move my hand in a clockwise way, just to allow myself to connect with the design, with the pattern. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. And let your breath find its natural rhythm as we join in this community, as we connect in this way. Let yourself find your pace. The music will be about 13 minutes long. I've chosen Harry Pickens' album called Piano Peace. And some of you have heard parts of this before. It was written right after 9/11. He's a musician, he lived in New York, and his reaction to the World Trade Centers being destroyed was to sit down at his piano and create this album. So take a moment to get settled, and I'll begin the music. Take a moment. Don't hurry yourself. Let feelings and thoughts hover. No need to rush. So those of you who have joined us before know that we take time at this moment to share thoughts and feelings and reactions. Uh, Prayerfulness, I see in the chat line, prayers for India, prayers for countries that are so ailing and being destroyed by the virus, as well as poverty and all the issues that we face in the world.
Okay, let's check in with Lars at Grace. And you want to give us a report, Lars, on how your walk went?
It's a blessing to be with you all, and I really feel fortunate to be here and, walking you through the labyrinth. I spoke everyone's name actually aloud because I was the only one here, and um, went through. And when I arrived in the center, I only had maybe 3 names left, and so it exactly filled. Oh, hey, there's
The 2 o'clock bells.
yeah.
Really lovely, Lars, with the sun coming out by the towers as well.
Yeah, and the fog is racing overhead, and it's just really special. And I wish you all could be here with me, but I guess in some ways you are. So here's to our reunions in time and in space, in the past and the present and then the future. I recognized so many names when I was going through the participant list, and so it was very touching to see people that I've been with at gatherings and workshops and online, and the finger walks, and new friends, and people new to the Friday and this special World Labyrinth Day event. So happy World Labyrinth Day, everybody, and here's to global healing.
Thanks, Lars. Thank you. So I'd like to end this with, I put in the chat the source, Douglas Klotz, who from Prayers to the Cosmos. And what he has done is taken different scripture, this one it happens to be the Lord's Prayer, and translated it into the original Aramaic. And you may be surprised to hear this, and you'll hear the rhythm of the Lord's Prayer. So, O cosmic birther of all radiance and vibration, soften the ground of our being and carve out a space within us where your presence can abide. Fill us with your creativity so that we may be empowered to bear the fruit of your mission. Let each of our actions bear fruit in accordance with your desire. Endow us with the wisdom to produce and share what each being needs to grow and flourish. Untie the tangled threads of destiny that bind us as we release others from the entanglements of past mistakes. Do not let us be seduced by that which would divert us from your true purpose, but illuminate the opportunities of the present moment. For you are the round and the fruitful vision, the birth, power, and fulfillment, as all is gathered and made whole once again. So thank you all for being here, for participating and on the many, many Friday walks and the flexibility of shifting this for World Labyrinth Day on the Saturday. And we continue next week with our gatherings on Friday. I'm looking at Dawn here to confirm. And
Next Friday will be at 4 p.m.
Thank you so much.
How rich and full. We may go just a few minutes over. I'd like to turn it over to Ellen. And I know that she's going to remind any of you who signed up for the Big Connection to make sure you go online and fill out your survey, and you can connect with the worldwide community today. So go ahead, Ellen.
Great job, Dawn. I don't have to say anything else.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fantastic. Yes, if you walked, if you signed up for the Big Connection and are a participant, please go and fill out the survey. Chris Katzenmeyer, who was on the first session of World Labyrinth Day Live, the second session, which will be starting in about 30 minutes, told us that there were over 600 people signed up, over 20 countries represented, I think 35 states are represented. So it's great participation. And when she went to bed last night, 58 people had already filled out the survey. So as we've talked about, this information is going to be so great for the Labyrinth community. We'll all be able to use it. It will be offered to everyone who participates. Will get the results when they're made. So I also want to remind you that not only is there a survey for the Big Connection, but if you can go on to worldlabyrinthday.org, there's a participation survey that we would love and so appreciate if you could fill it out, and how you participated today, what it meant to you. It's a questionnaire that you can fill out, because that helps us for next year and gives us some data of how to make the day even better. And I have to tell you guys, I'm like getting so tired, and it's not because this is hard work. It's just I've been so excited all day and I couldn't go to sleep last night. And it's just been so wonderful and emotional to see all your faces and people I haven't seen for a while, and to make the connection. Our intention was Connections 2021 for all the reasons that Lauren has talked about. But it's the first year that 4 organizations have worked together. TLS has opened the circle, and we worked with Veritas, the Legacy Labyrinth Project, and the Australian Labyrinth Network. So the connection started at the center, and it's rippled out to everyone around the world. And your participation is so appreciated.
Right.
And Ellen is to be thanked for gathering us all.
Oh, it was a joy.
Thank you, Ellen. And it's fun. You folks have put a lot of time into coordinating the 4 organizations, and you know, it's such a shared vision for everyone. And I'm grateful for TLS to have begun this, how many years ago?
13. 13. This is the 13th year.
Yeah. 13. And those of us in the Bay Area, maybe we can say, Lars, if you would, we can meet next year at the Labyrinth Grace Cathedral. Maybe we can hope for that, I'm sure. So
thank you so much. We are all connected.
yes, and we need to nurture it and care for those connections, and include the earth and the non-humans, and every labyrinth you walk, bless it and ask it to come into people's lives even more dramatically. So blessings on the path. I always liked the blessing that I learned when I was at one of the retreat centers. The will of God will not lead you where the grace of God cannot follow. The will of God will not lead you where the grace of God cannot follow. Blessings on the path. Take care all. Thank you so much. Thanks, Ellen.